They didn't trap you with chains. They trapped you with hope. You told yourself you could leave at any moment. But every time you tried, something pulled you back. Not just love. Confusion. Guilt. Need. Fear. Memory. And the worst part? You still miss them sometimes. Even after everything. Because what happened to you was never a normal relationship. It was conditioning. At first, they studied you. Your loneliness. Your kindness. Your wounds. Your need to feel chosen. And then they became everything you were missing. The attention felt addictive. The connection felt rare. The intensity felt real. They didn't love you slowly. They overwhelmed you. Too much affection. Too much closeness. Too many promises too soon. And you thought, finally. Someone who sees me. But that version of them was never meant to last. Because the goal was never love. The goal was attachment. Once they felt you emotionally hooked, everything changed. The warmth became inconsistent. The affection became conditional. The silence became punishment. One day they needed you. The next day they acted cold. Distant. Annoyed by your existence. And suddenly, you weren't trying to build a relationship anymore. You were trying to get back to the person they were in the beginning. That's what kept you trapped. Not the abuse. The memory of who they pretended to be. They gave you just enough good moments to keep you doubting the bad ones. Just enough affection to make you question your instincts. Just enough hope to stop you from walking away. And slowly, your entire nervous system adapted to survival. You started monitoring their moods. Watching their tone. Preparing for emotional impact before it even happened. You stopped feeling safe. But you also stopped trusting yourself. Because every time you reacted to the pain, they made you feel crazy for feeling it. You became emotionally exhausted trying to explain things they already understood. That's the part people don't see. You weren't weak. You were psychologically cornered. They trained you to associate love with relief. Relief after tension. Relief after withdrawal. Relief after emotional starvation. So when they finally gave you attention again, it felt powerful. Not because it was healthy. Because you had been deprived of it. That's how trauma bonds work. The pain becomes part of the attachment. You weren't addicted to them. You were addicted to the moment they became kind again. And every time you were about to leave, they sensed it. Suddenly they changed. Suddenly they cared. Suddenly they said the exact words you had been begging to hear for months. Not because they transformed. Because they felt control slipping. So you stayed. Again. And every time you stayed, you betrayed yourself a little more just to keep the connection alive. Until one day, you looked in the mirror and barely recognized the person staring back. You became quieter. More anxious. More apologetic. More afraid to upset someone who never seemed afraid of hurting you. That wasn't love. Love does not erase you while demanding proof of loyalty. Love does not confuse you into silence. Love does not make you feel guilty for having emotional needs. What kept you there was not stupidity. It was emotional conditioning repeated over time. Reward. Pain. Relief. Hope. Repeat. That cycle changes people. Especially people who love deeply. Especially people who keep believing that if they explain themselves one more time, they'll finally be understood. But they understood you from the beginning. That's why they knew exactly how to keep you attached. And maybe the hardest truth is this. Part of you still waits for the version of them that never truly existed. But healing begins the moment you stop grieving the fantasy and start recognizing the pattern. Because the second you see the design behind the chaos, the spell starts to break.